Okay, so in this walkthrough, I'm going to go over four main things. Number one is color. Number two is how I add on B-roll. Number three is how I add text and some motion graphics. And then number four is how I add on music. So this one's going to be a bit of a longer one, but let's go ahead and get this done. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with color. Color is actually pretty simple, at least the method that I use to color my footage for talking head videos. What I personally do, and I'll give multiple methods since just in case you don't really have the same camera as me, but I'm going to delete the subtitle track just to get it out of the way and have more space to work with. I don't actually need subtitles, so just reorganizing this. And then what I personally do is I go to Lumetri Color. It's a window that you can make it pop up by just going to this window tab right here and then looking for Lumetri Color. And then I go to the source because the source basically edits the entire, like everything that is this video clip right here. It will apply the color effects to it. So that is the entirety of this whole row that I made teal, so video layer 1. That way I don't have to like add an adjustment layer. So this is another method that people use pretty often, which is they add an adjustment layer right here, new item, adjustment layer. They add it on top and they pretty much do the coloring on the adjustment layer. This is so that there's no like destructive editing, so that you're not permanently affecting this. But honestly, for my purposes, for talking head videos, I don't need to do that because I would need to apply it to every single adjustment layer and then change it once this camera B pops up. And it's a lot of work that is unnecessary. So if you're like color correcting and color grading B-roll footage, it's understandable, but for talking head videos, it's not really necessary in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is my method, like I said, go to the source. And the first thing I do is go to the creative tab and add a LUT or lookup table. And the one that I have personally is, they're called the Phantom LUTs. It's something that I had to buy, but I'll just go ahead and apply it first so that you can see how it looks. So as you can see, it's definitely changed from before and after. And the lookup table, like just applying the LUT alone, honestly, that's pretty much good. You don't have to really do too much else other than that. But if you wanted to, you can go into the basic corrections, white balance. You can find something that's white. For me, there's not too many things that are white because I have very colored backgrounds. So I'm not going to change white balance because it looks good overall. But if you wanted to, you can find something that was white. And then, yeah, I guess skin tone wise, it's a bit better, and you can tell using Lumetri scopes. Basically, if you were to create a mask, I do that by going into effects control, using the pen tool, and then going over my face like this. I'm just creating a triangle. You can tell through the Lumetri scopes right here that if the skin tones are too red, they'll be pointing in the red direction. If they're too yellow or orange, they'll be pointing towards the yellow direction, or green. Sometimes your skin tone's a little green. So right now it's actually perfect skin tones, which is, like I mentioned earlier, like you can't always rely on your sight, but for me, I could just tell that my skin tones looked correct. I've done enough editing where I can sort of tell if it looks too green or red. Show you an example of it moving. So if it's too green, which it'll probably never be like that green, but if it's a little bit green, then you can tell it's towards the yellow side for this Lumetri scope. And if you're not seeing this one, you have to right click the Lumetri scope area. You go to window, Lumetri scopes right here, and then right click, and it is the vector scope YUV. I just moved its position, but yeah, so when it's greener or more yellowish, it will point towards here, and you want to add red or magenta to fix it basically. So this is like adding magenta right here, which fixes the skin tone. but let's say it's green. Let's go to the mask. I'm using shortcuts to switch between the tabs. Right now I changed it to Shift X as effects control and then Shift C as lumetri control or lumetri color. And those windows, you can bring them up by just typing it in and adding your shortcut right here. So let's switch between them. Effects control, I'm gonna remove the mask really quick so you can see that it's definitely greener now, and we'll just go back and fix it. Very simple. That is pretty much how you do skin tones. You can use, if you don't want to affect the entire thing, like only your skin is the issue, then you can use HSL secondary. Just select where your skin is. This is the hue, saturation, and luminance. So if you want to select more of it, you just expand these. But right now, this selection is only on my skin. So if I were to change the color, it would mostly just remain on my skin and not the background. And that is how you basically just change your skin tones without changing the colors in the background. But obviously, for me, I didn't really need that because I shot with correct white balance and good exposure. So most of the time, as long as you're doing that, you don't have to do too much correction. Back to the lookup tables, the LUT. If you don't want to buy a LUT, for me personally, since I am shooting with the Sony a7 IV, what you can do is go to their website and just download their free LUT that is for S-Log3, which is the one that I'm shooting with. So it's absolutely free, and I've used it before, and it pretty much does a similar thing where they just color correct it. So you don't need to actually go buy any LUT at all. You can just use the ones that whatever your camera manufacturer, their company, whatever they have for free. And it should work. This particular LUT, the Phantom LUT, it's supposed to match a camera called the Arri Alexa. So it's like matching a look that is a bit different from just like color correcting. That's why I personally like this one, and that's why I bought it, but it's not necessary to buy it. And that is pretty much it for color in terms of color correcting. If you want to grade it a bit further, like you can give it a bit more contrast if you like that look. If it's too dark, you can expose it higher. That's what this lumetri scope is for as well. You can see 0 to 100. This one is the waveform luma. And basically you don't want anything to go below 0 or above 100. Although this small sliver right here, which is the window, I don't really care too much if it's clipped, meaning that, you know, it's like completely white. There's no more information. So if I increase the highlights just to make it overall closer to 100, because generally the rule of thumb is to try to make this as spread out as possible, so you're getting the most like contrast in terms of the shadows and the highlights. So I could do that, but again, this is all pretty subjective. So as long as like it's not super crushed in the middle, or it's not like clipping into complete blackness or complete whiteness, like you'll be fine. You don't really need to particularly always expand it as much as possible. It's just if you're filmmaking and you're trying to grade something as best as possible, that's what you would do. But for a talking head video, it's not like completely necessary, but it's just something to note if that's what you want. Whites and blacks are basically just the lower ends. So it goes from blacks is like the complete darkness. You're controlling whether or not the things in the image that are black either become brighter or even darker. And then shadows is sort of like the not quite black, but the more darker things in the like the hair and anything that's a shadow, basically. So yeah, you're basically controlling the most black things, and then the lesser black things, and then the lesser bright things, and then the most white things. That's how these sliders work right here. But again, personally for me, I was very purposeful with the way I lit things up in terms of the lighting, so I don't need to adjust it too much in post. but these are what these main sliders do in case you want to adjust them. But that's basically all I do for color. And I usually do it in source. It looks like I accidentally did it in the clip itself and not the not all of them at once, but that's easy to fix. I'm just going to go into this right here, click on this, copy, so Command C, go to source, and then I'm going to paste it in source. And I just doubled up, so I'm going to delete this one. So now you can see there's like a red line under these, and it's applied to every single one of them. Where back then it was just applied to this single clip and not the other ones. So that's the benefit of applying your effects to the source and not just like one clip at a time. That's the way I personally do it, at least. Okay, that's pretty much it for color.